So yeah, last December 18, I got my third copyright strike manually dealt by Square Enix, which means this channel amounting to 2 years of hard work will be gone in 7 days. It was quite a heartache for sure. I wasn't able to sleep the first night, and in the following days, I went through all kinds of emotional roller coasters. Came to a point where I eventually accepted what happened and even had a relative set up a new channel under her name so I could put my old videos there. A sort of repository where people can still enjoy them. Obviously, it's already 2022 and you're still here watching me in that very same channel. So, what happened? I'll explain in detail later in this video, but to give a summary, I thoroughly studied where I stand legally. Then I saw that Square Enix may have made a mistake which prompted me to submit a counter notification. It proved to be successful as after 10 grueling days of depression and anxiety, I only now have 2 strikes instead of 3. I mean, it's still bad and nothing to be proud of, but at least my channel won't be deleted. I was lucky that 1 strike was a fluke, but the other 2 are very valid. I was in the wrong, and Square Enix had every right to make those strikes. All of this mess stemmed from me not reviewing properly the material usage license of FF14. It's basically the do's and don'ts when publishing FF14 content, guidelines if you will, and surprisingly, very few content creators know about it. Just to be clear, we're not here to berate SE for these guidelines. The conditions are not there for Square Enix to be a jerk to people, but it's there to protect the FF14 developers and creative artists from unnecessary legal costs. And of course, we'd want to protect our beloved Yoshi P, Masayoshi Soken, Christopher Koji Fox, and the rest of the team. I think we should even be appreciative that they took the time to determine these do's and don'ts, whereas in other games, YouTubers would be doing videos blindfolded and then get surprised with copyright strikes. So in this video, I plan to do 3 things. Number 1 is to go over the FF14 Material Usage License or the guidelines and explain them as I understand them, so content creators not in the know will be informed and in turn avoid getting their YouTube channel in trouble, just like what happened to me. Number 2 is to share my story on how I got 3 copyright strikes with my FF14 videos and determine which of the guidelines I violated that resulted in me getting those strikes. And number 3, how the 3rd strike was actually in gray area and how I was able to rescind the strike and avoid channel annihilation. You can search the FF14 Material Usage License in Google and it should lead you to this FF14 page. But it might be tedious for you to read everything in one go, which is why I made this PowerPoint so you can digest them in bite-sized bits. Disclaimer, these guidelines are not perfect, so some of the guidelines may need further elaboration by Square Enix, but this is the best we have for now. And my explanation here will be of my own understanding of the guidelines, and I may be wrong in some of them. So here we are, the Material Usage License of Final Fantasy XIV. For the first line, we have Final Fantasy XIV, or FF14, is comprised of materials such as art, text, and logos that are copyrighted and or trademarked. This is Square Enix making clear that everything FF14 related is copyrighted and owned by them. We as players and content creators own nothing, which is fair because we really don't own them to begin with. Pointing the obvious, but better to have it clarified like that. Next is Square Enix grants you permission to utilize certain materials as specified below, called the materials, on a non-commercial basis for the purpose of supporting and developing the FF14 community in accordance to the following terms and conditions. This means Square Enix, copyright owner of FF14, will let us use FF14 content under certain conditions, which we'll discuss in the following slides. Not adhering with said conditions would warrant violators a copyright strike. This is basically them saying, here's where we draw the line, and if you go over that line, then you're in trouble. It also says on a non-commercial basis, but there are exceptions like being a partner in YouTube, which will be mentioned later on in this video, so keep watching. Please read these terms and conditions carefully. So excuses like sorry I wasn't able to fully understand the guidelines and such won't absolve you of your transgressions. If you didn't read or understand their conditions well enough, then obviously it's gonna be on you. The use or distribution of the materials from FF14 and or FF14 related services on your or third-party homepages, blogs, social networking services is conditional upon your acceptance of these terms and conditions. So yeah, they're just making it crystal clear here, and they're reminding us once again that they'll allow us to use FF14 content, but under certain strict conditions. The license applies to the following materials. So here's the FF14 content they are willing to let us use. All art, text, logos, videos, screenshots, images, sounds, music, and recordings from FF14. Basically everything from the Final Fantasy XIV game. And all art, text, logos, blah blah blah, the same from the official FF14 website, official forums, or any other official Square Enix channel. This means everything from their official online hubs such as the main website, official forums, and even stuff on their social media like Facebook, Twitter, and even YouTube. The Final Fantasy XIV Fan Kit. These are multimedia stuff you can download from the main site, such as wallpapers, ringtones, and such. The following audio soundtracks, which is almost all of the soundtracks released from ARR up to Endwalker vinyl single. So this raises a red flag. Music or songs that aren't here yet, such as Endwalker songs beside the single, are potential danger zones for being copyright struck. But the odd thing I see here is if we go back to the list of materials we can use, it says everything in FF14. So this raises a question. What about music in FF14 that aren't part of the allowed soundtracks? Will you get copyright struck if you use the song Flow because it isn't on the list yet? This is one of the few things that confuses me regarding the guidelines. If someone can explain properly, then I'll be glad to be enlightened. Okay, next up. You may not use the materials for any sales or commercial use, meaning you cannot receive license fees or advertising fees, except as part of the partner programs operated by YouTube, Twitch, or similar programs. So here they make it clear that you cannot use the materials to make money in any way, except if you are a content creator or streamer partner in known social media platforms such as YouTube and Twitch. So here in YouTube, we're good. Next, if the operator of a partner program seeks to confirm our policy, please point them to this page, as we do not have the resources to respond to all requests. Self-explanatory. Next, as an exception, this restriction against commercial use will not be enforced against influencers for earning revenue or wages from corporate entities through the streaming of gameplay. Okay, they just repeated the last previous line. Next, if you use a trademark, such as Final Fantasy or any related logo, then you must include a notice saying that the mark is owned by Square Enix, such as the following. And if you use any copyrighted materials, such as screenshots or gameplay video, then you must include the following notice. So, to be always on the safe side, always put these two important lines on your published content whenever you use FF14 stuff. What I'm not sure though is if you need to put them in the video all the time, or if just putting them at the start of the video or even just in the text description would suffice already. But yeah, best is to put them everywhere to cover all your tracks. Next is, you may not sell the materials to third parties as original content. Obviously, this is a given. You may not use the materials to promote other commercial products. Another given. You may not materially alter or modify the materials, except you may add your own voiceover, and you may edit, combine, mash up, mix, and match the materials with other FF14 materials. This makes sense. Just use FF14 content as they are, and as how Square Enix and the dev team intend them to be used. But I would have liked to have further clarification of what alter or modify means here, because it could be a lot of things. Anyway, next is, you may not alter, remove, or conceal any trademark or copyright notices that may be included in the materials. Okay, makes sense? You must immediately comply with any request by Square Enix to remove any materials in Square Enix's sole discretion. Of course, since they own the content, they have every right to demand people to take it down. Though the gray area is, What if the people they're asking to take their content down aren't violating any of the guidelines? Does Square Enix still have the authority to demand them to take their stuff down? So it's a bit confusing. You agree not to use any materials in conjunction with any of the following: unapproved Square Enix assets, which probably are stuff explicitly not included in the materials enumerated, counterfeit merchandise, of course, pornography, obviously, unlicensed Square Enix available for streaming or download, as well as links to unlicensed Square Enix music available for streaming or download. I think by unlicensed, they mean FF14 music that isn't included in the materials yet. For example, I uploaded a lyric video of the Endwalker Footfalls song without the sound effects while it wasn't listed in the allowed soundtracks yet, so lo and behold, it was immediately taken down manually by Square Enix. Lesson learned the hard way. Guidelines for in-game music performance. This is when performing music with barred instruments in the game, in relation to any functions within the game which allow you to perform virtual musical instruments or performance actions. You are strictly prohibited from performing the music of any third parties. Again, this is Square Enix protecting itself from being copyright claimed by others when their players perform third-party copyrighted materials. Just think that if you as a player, for example, perform a Michael Jackson song, there is a possibility that UMG, the copyright owner of the artist, will file a lawsuit against Square Enix for something we, the players, did. So they're just covering their tracks. You hereby warrant that your performance using the performance actions will not infringe the rights of any third parties, and you shall indemnify us in respect of any breach of such warranty. This is them making clear that performing third-party songs are really a no-go, and if indeed Square Enix gets sued, you, as the violator, will be the one paying the legal costs for them. So it's just not worth it. You may record and share your performance of the FF14 original score, excluding the songs entitled Answers, Dragon Song, and Revolutions, or original songs and melodies using the performance actions in accordance with this agreement. These three songs are the ultimate trifecta of FF14 copyright strikes, so avoid them at all costs. I'll explain later in another section that discusses these songs. Furthermore, by using the performance actions, you acknowledge and consent to any third-party recording and sharing of your performance online. This is Square Enix saying you cannot copyright your performances and anyone can use them. Again, a defensive stance the company is taking to avoid further legal complications. Next, you also hereby agree that we may block or otherwise restrict your access to FF14 if you do not comply with the terms of the license contained herein. Yes, another reminder that they can use the ban hammer on you should you violate any of the terms mentioned so far. Let's move on to the specific guidelines for videos. The video must not require a paid membership for viewing, so your FF14 content should not be gatekept by a paywall, or else Square Enix will come after you. You may not split our videos, vocal, music, visual, etc., or distribute components as separate assets. I guess an example of violating this rule is recording FF14 gameplay video, then splicing the music as separate MP3 files and using them as a sort of OST playlist for others to consume, which is essentially piracy. You may not combine or synchronize the materials with third-party content, like a mashup, but you may include the materials alongside third-party content like before or after in the same video, as long as you also have permission from the original copyright owner. To eliminate the risk of FF14 and Square Enix getting copyright claimed by other people or companies, they just deemed it safest not to let us mix FF14 content with other third-party materials, which makes sense. The video must not contain racist, sexist, homophobic, or generally offensive content of any kind. This includes graphic violence or sexually explicit content. This is a given. Even YouTube and Twitch are strict about these things. Lastly, we have the guidelines for music. You may only use music as it is incorporated in FF14. I think this means use music in the game as they are played when you play the game, and also maybe not use songs that aren't in the game that's also not included yet in the list of usable soundtracks. Probably an example of this is the Pulse remix album. It's not in the game, and there was a time that it wasn't included in the allowed soundtracks yet. So you couldn't use songs from that album at the time, but when they updated the allowed soundtracks and included it, it is only when we can use the songs from that soundtrack. The Pulse remix album, I mean. When showing gameplay, you may not replace FF14 music with third-party music. Again, third-party stuff is just a big no-no when dealing with FF14 content. You may not play FF14 music alone, for example, without accompanying gameplay footage, or with third-party materials. This is a reiteration of the earlier terms. You cannot play music alone, because that would be akin to audio streaming pirated content. Playing music with a third-party content would also be a problem because, again, third-party stuff can be a huge legal headache, and it's just not worth it. Next, you may not stream or distribute the materials where the primary purpose is to listen to FF14's audio soundtracks. So this is a relatively new guideline. I bet you've encountered videos that are trying to get around the rules by just adding gameplay footage to perfectly spliced music that aren't in the allowed soundtracks yet. In the end, I guess this can still be considered piracy, so Square Enix added this specific clause last December too. I actually got a strike before by just running around Old Charlayan with the city music playing in the background. Since the song isn't in the allowed soundtracks yet, it's still prohibited, I guess. Last but not the least, you may not use the songs titled Answers, Dragon Song, or Revolutions. So this is the fabled trifecta of FF14 copyright strikes. Completely steer away from these songs as they're sure to land you a copyright strike. Long story short, FF14 and the dev team don't completely own the rights to these songs, unlike all the others they're letting us use. So they don't have complete control over them. If a problem arises, the other copyright owners would need to get involved and everything will be a legal mess. Square Enix and the FF14 devs are just trying to avoid that from happening. So it's totally understandable. You may also not use any arranged or rearranged version of the mentioned songs, as well as Misconception, Beyond Redemption, or Night Bloom. To my understanding, we can use the original unaltered songs of these songs. We are just prohibited from altering them or using altered versions of them. That wraps up our coverage of the FF14 Material Usage Policy, or guidelines when using FF14 content on your personal and third-party sites. Again, it's not perfect, and some of the guidelines are vague and a bit confusing, but at least we have something to base our YouTube videos on. Getting back to what happened to me, I got 3 copyright strikes on this channel. So what guidelines did I violate, and how was I able to save my channel from being deleted? I got my first strike last November 17, and the culprits are my lyric videos for Answers, Dragon Song, and Revolutions. I haven't read the guidelines at this point, but the videos have been up for more than a year, so in my mind, I guess it was okay. Little did I know how dangerous those songs are for FF14 content creators. But I was thankful that instead of getting 1 strike for each video, which would make it 3 strikes for the 3 songs, which would also mean bye-bye YouTube, I only got 1 strike for those multiple violations. The first strike was totally my bad, and I deserve it because I didn't read the material usage license, which I also wasn't aware of at the time, but it's not a valid excuse. Square Enix was completely in the right, and I am guilty. Strike 2 came 5 days later, and it was my lyric video for the Endwalker Footfall song. You know, the song in the Endwalker trailer without the sound effects. At the time, the vinyl just got released along with the MP3 files. So I thought it would be good for my channel to be one of the first ones to upload a lyric video about it. Wrong move. Just a day or 2 after posting, I immediately got a manual copyright strike from Square Enix. Apparently, even though I've read the guidelines, I didn't understand it enough. Thinking about it more, it does make sense. They just started selling the vinyl, and here comes an a-hole posting the product on the internet for free. So strike 2 was on me again, and Square Enix have the right. A few days later though, they added the Endwalker vinyl single on the allowed soundtracks. So yay! That lyric video should now be safe to upload, and safe from being taken down. The third and final strike was handed down to me last December 18. The culprit this time was a video of my character roaming around Old Charlayan while the city music plays in the background. I thought this was okay because it follows every applicable rule in the guidelines. FF14 gameplay footage and music, where is as is, no splicing, it has the trademark and copyright texts, you know the works. But there is one thing that I think may have been the cause. The music in Old Charlayan is not yet on the allowed soundtracks. So yeah, I couldn't believe it. I now had 3 copyright strikes and my channel will be gone in 7 days. I tried to reach out to Square Enix to the email provided by YouTube when disputing copyright stuff, to no avail. The only option left for me was to submit a counter notification to YouTube and providing them an adequate explanation on why Square Enix may have made a mistake in issuing me a copyright strike. I reviewed the guidelines again and told YouTube some of the applicable rules from the FF14 material usage license that should allow me to post the video in question. The first try was rejected, but then I submitted a second one, now with better wording, and what do you know, YouTube accepted it. I was then told that after successfully submitting my counter notification, Square Enix has 10 days to show evidence that they have taken court action against me. And Jesus Christ, that 10-day wait was just pure agony. I remember going through all stages of grief multiple times, maybe every 3 days, thinking that the 2 years of my hard work will now be gone and my name will be banned from YouTube and I will not be able to upload there ever again. And this is serious for me because making videos and gaming is a big passion of mine. So it kinda hurt. And also a chunk of my income will now disappear. So sooner or later I may have problems in paying my monthly bills if I didn't get new work. Those 10 days were an emotional roller coaster. Every time I'd hear that Gmail notification sound, I'd get a heart attack, thinking that this may be the email that would make or break my channel. I'd get multiple unrelated emails from Google, and damn did they take a few years off my lifespan. Anyway, 10 days have passed, and I get an email from Google while I was at the hospital. 2 of them actually. The first one said, in accordance with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or the MCA, we've completed processing your counter notification. So I was like, the hell does this mean? Is my channel gone now or not? I panicked and tried to log into my YouTube account and it was still there. I logged into YouTube Studio and saw that I now only have 2 strikes instead of 3. Then the second email comes in telling me that the copyright claim has been released. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and almost cried. My channel is saved for now. It managed to avoid complete annihilation. I don't know what happened and why Square Enix didn't proceed with a court action against me. We can only speculate. Thinking about it, it could have been a few things. One is that it was really a mistake, and upon Square Enix reviewing my explanation and video more, they eventually considered I wasn't violating the FF14 guidelines. Number 2 is that I am actually guilty in their eyes, but wasting money and resources for a small YouTuber from a third world country that the game doesn't even recognize is just not worth it. Yeah, you're guilty, but you're just not worth our time and money, so we forgive you. Number 3 is that no one from Square Enix was able to read nor take action regarding my counter notification simply because it was the holidays. It's Christmas, it's New Year, we're in a pandemic, maybe people were just busy with other stuff that they weren't able to process my issue with them within 10 days. We'll never know, but what I do know is that I'm thankful for what happened. And this is definitely an eye-opener for me to be careful on what I post on my channel. It's like a second life. Certainly, my lyric videos for Answers and Dragon Song would garner lots of views. But on the other hand, it's a surefire way to kill my channel. So nope, it's just not worth it. And there's definitely other ways to make videos. Better ones, in fact. And there are a lot of people who have been successful with their unique content. Inspirations like Alex Mukala, Husky by the Geek, Zepla, Miztech, Mr. Happy, Kogon, Larizor, and a lot more. I should learn from them. Anyway, this video has gone long enough. I hope you learned something on not getting a copyright strike when doing FF14 content. I plan to make more videos soon. I'll try not to limit myself to just lyric videos and raid guides. Thanks for watching up to this point. I'll see you next time. Happy New Year, everyone!